Welcome to Bendy. Join your two favorite transatlantic weirdos, Andy from Ireland and Beth from the USA, as we take you on a journey through every topic imaginable, with insight, vulnerability, and fart jokes, or in other words, the complete human experience.
Hello, and welcome to Bendy, a podcast about being flexible and all of the ways that means. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andy Young, and I'm one of your functioning, employed hosts. Joining me, as always, is our other functioning and employed host, Beth Martin. Beth, the pleasure as always. What's the crack?
What's
Beth?
the crack? Andy, employ. Did you say employed or employable?
Employed? don't tell anyone that we're not really.
I was like, that's a lie.
We're lousy bums. But I mean, like, you know, so much of these adjectives are complete lies, so, you know, why not?
It's true.
I'm immediately in my own head as soon as I started reading that, because I was thinking about, you know, you're saying about Mike laughing every time I do the hello. As soon as I did a hello, I was like, oh, great.
Hello.
Mike's going to take another shot.
It's also when you say we.
We. Let's live up that stereotype.
It's true. The crack. So, I started Prozac.
Okay, tell me more about Prozac, because it's something that I think we hear about a lot in the UK.
Yeah.
But I don't think we get it as Prozac, at least anyway.
I mean, there are many generic names, because that's how drug companies work. But it's probably one of the older antidepressants or SSRIs. I've never tried it. My body's weird, and like it doesn't react normally to a lot of, like, I'm allergic to a lot of SSRIs, so I'm trying it out. It's been an intense week generally. I do have more energy, but like the things I'm choosing to spend that energy on are different than like what I would normally spend my energy on. Mm-hmm. So I feel the need to like move my body more, which is good, but not actually like sit down and like edit for the podcast or like respond to emails or like talk to people.
But yeah, that's still good though. I mean, like that you're getting some of that energy is nice in a way.
Yeah. So, but I'm also like, I'm having a hard time just kind of like integrating it, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm not having like severe reactions like I do normally. So I'm kind of just trying to go with it and see what happens for a couple weeks. But I was talking to my therapist about it, and we were talking about like to-do lists. I'm really getting into this. I'm sorry.
No, it's interesting.
So I'm going to talk about mood charting through to-do lists.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and I know you make to-do lists like I do, little check boxes and everything. And so she was like, okay, because I was like, I just don't know what to do with myself right now. And she was like, well, make a to-do list. Like, let's do it together. And I was like, yoga, shower, you know, work on your book, blah, blah, blah. And then she had me assign a feeling to each task. Mm-hmm. And then she had me rearrange my tasks based on how they made me feel instead of what needed to actually be done.
Interesting.
I know. And then she was like, do you have to work on your book today if you really don't want to do it? And I was like, no, I don't. And she's like, you know, what are one of the things that does like make you happy? And I'm like, the podcast. She's like, well, why isn't the podcast on there? And I'm like, because it makes me happy. And it's like, I feel bad about doing this thing that's like enjoyable when I have like these projects that I feel like I should be working on, right?
I hear you.
And she's like, put podcasts on the list if it makes you happy and brings you joy. And like, you don't have to do yoga today. It's okay. Like, take a bath because it, you know, makes your muscles feel better and, you know, relieves some stress. So I just thought it was an interesting tool. And I've been using it each day since last Tuesday or whatever, or Wednesday. That doesn't matter, the day of the week. But it's, if it's helpful to anybody else out there to like not do the things that you think you should do, I guess, through mood charting on your to-do list. Like, I'd never heard of doing that. I was like, it was kind of a little light bulb moment.
I like that. It's a good way to reframe some of that stuff, you know.
Yeah, and also like forgive yourself for not doing all the things.
Yeah. Beth, I could never forgive myself for that.
I know. I can see.
How dare
You're
you
like,
suggest it?
your like lips are pursed. You're just like
forgive myself. Are you insane? It's interesting because like, and it's really I really like that way of looking at it. I feel like I've done somewhat similar things. But I feel like there's so much pressure, like at a societal level, to kind of like do that stuff. It's almost like, you know, in a very simple way, it's like you've got to eat your veggies before you have a treat. You know what I mean? You got to eat all these veggies. And it's like, well, sometimes, you know, there's too many veggies, you know, it's about finding that balance. And you're right, it's about finding the stuff that actually makes you happy, you know, so, but it can be hard to, like, land on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're talking about medication.
Yeah, what's your crack?
Doubled my medication, which was weird. I had a bit of a week of, like, my head being a bit, like, sort of, by the end of the day, it was a little bit sore, and I was like, is this it? Is this something else? And I think it's connected to the tablets. I really don't know, but like it's only been a week, so I really can't say for sure. But it definitely seems to be. I mean, my last week has been pretty good. So whether that's to do with the medication going up or whether it's just a good week, I don't know. But you know,
could be
both. It's a promising start. You know,
that's good. Take it as a win.
It is.
Take that W.
I will take that W. I'll maybe forgive myself. I'll think about it. And Beth, another kind of thing, and I told you about this already. And guys, right, this is going to blow your mind. But hangovers totally suck. They totally suck. They suck ass.
You're like,
don't drink. Drinking's terrible.
I'm so hungover today, dude.
I sent Beth that message because I was trying to like come up with a witty response to something Beth had sent me. And I was like, I can't. My brain's not working that well today at all. So I just kind of had to like back away from it. But having said that, the day before was really lovely and it was a way and kind of connecting with our theme this week. I was reconnecting with some old workmates and stuff, and it was lovely to kind of, some of whom I haven't seen in quite a few years. Maybe like, it may even be, I think I said you were 8 or 9, but I think I might even be close to 10. So I am going to, it was just really nice to see them. So it was always good to reconnect those old sort of relationships. I think, or rebuild those old relationships.
Yep. And have a little social lubrication.
Well, absolutely. And it's so funny at first because I feel like there's a handful of us who are crap at socialising, and it was like so much kind of like, even with people I've known well, there was a few of those guys I still see regularly, and we were like low eye contact, like just kind of, you know, half talking, and then like a couple of drinks later it was full eye contact, it was engagement, and I was like, this is great but also fucked in a way, you know.
Right.
So it's interesting, but it was good, and as I say, it was nice. It was nice to be out for a bit with some friends. So yeah, that was fun. That's the crack with me recently.
That's good. Happy hangover.
Yeah, delightful hangover. So the next question I need to ask you, Beth, is what's occurring? Do you have any updates for us this week?
I do. So I sent Andy a picture of the Pink Floyd Tree of Half-Life. Which is I mentioned in the last episode that it's like this like tree that someone basically like cut with a chainsaw hanging upside down on a helicopter. So the artist's name is Storm Thorgerson. I was close. And I have a quote that I thought was hilarious. So amazing sight on the landscape. Where did it come from? Storm knows best. And here's what he says. The official story is that this tree profile head was achieved by a helicopter topiary. A man hung from a copter and cut the shape much as he would a hedge. Anybody who says different, who says the tree head was done on a computer, is a telltale and a stinky, rotten liar.
Nice, I love it. I like stinky, rotten liar. That's great.
Just like throw that in. So it's true. It really was.
I think that's kind of
down chainsaw.
You know, you'd think seeing something like that, the most outlandish, unreal thing would have been that somebody did it the way that they did it. And it kind of makes me happy that in this world that insane reality is is truth sometimes. You know?
Yes, right?
It's exciting. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
And, I feel bad that he felt the need that he had to stick up for the fact that he did something really cool. And, like, I wish that they had recorded it.
Yeah, I
want to see it. I mean, it's like cool that this guy had a tree head on his property and people would walk by and be like, oh my goodness, how lovely, wherever it was. But like, I want to see the guy hanging upside down with a chainsaw.
Yeah, I mean,
that's my wish.
It just feels so wildly impractical. It's like, what are you thinking? Like, why is that you're doing? I mean, like, I love it, don't get me wrong, but it feels like a recipe for somebody losing an arm or leg at minimum, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah.
That's the life of an outlaw artist. Did we talk about the Bobby Fingers thing on pod last week, or did we talk
you
about
mentioned Bobby Fingers and like you were like you should watch it, and then you sent me the link, and then I posted it to our Facebook page. Okay, so it's so funny.
It is. It's worth watching.
Like, it's the narration of him like making this
and all the
Jeff Bezos' head into a rowing boat.
And all the tangents where he's like talking to people and he's giving them the idea and they're like, what are you fucking talking about? You maniac.
Like ways to like raise money, and he's like, and then I tried to talk to the different toy companies and no one would respond to my emails except for this toy company, and he's got this like action figure and the head falls off and the guy's like, I don't know, and he's like, no wait, I've got other ideas. It's going so bad.
Just for any of you who don't know what we're talking about, basically,
it's so good.
Bobby Fingers. The link is there with the last episode, but he is for our UK listeners one half of Rubber Bandits, and he is an artist, and he did a video. He's done a few videos, but his most recent videos, he basically made a rowing boat in the shape of Jeff Bezos' head. Yes, we did talk about it last week, so it's worth
taking. It's big. It
is.
It seats a human.
It's way more insane than you can possibly imagine. You have to see it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really
and it's
fantastic.
Like him like dumpster diving for like styrofoam and putting it in you call it a lorry, and I'm like, it's a dump truck.
A lorry. Yes, we do call it a lorry. Okay. I have. Oh, sorry. Do you have something else?
I have one more. more. We got some feedback. This person said my second favorite podcast is Bendy, the podcast.
What's their number one podcast that they tell us?
They did, and I'm not gonna
fair enough.
Yeah, I guess I could call out the other people and
that's okay. We don't want to give them publicity.
Friends.
Yeah.
No. Only us.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought about doing that, but then I it's not my show notes, so
yeah.
I feel bad. I'm a jerk. Anyways. Maybe that's why we're her second favorite podcast. We're two great friends, Beth and Andy look for and also bring joy into each other's lives, and for others as well, mine included. I find joy in listening to them. Very positive, friendly, and contagious laughter duo with my daily hikes with my furry girl. So that makes me happy that someone is enjoying taking walks with us and listening. So
yeah, it's really.
So thank you for the comment.
I mean, we've talked about this before, and it kind of feels surreal. And it happened to me recently, where a friend had seen a video, one of the clips from our show where we talked about, or I had talked about pepper spraying an entire house full of people, and one of the guys who I pepper sprayed saw the video, which was hilarious. So yeah, but I mean, like, it's so lovely, the idea that somebody on a snowy mountain somewhere is taking a walk with their dog and is listening to us. It really is humbling and beautiful. So thank you so much.
Yes. What you got? What's occurring?
What you got? So basically, a friend, he had listened to our swearing. We were talking about swearing in one of the episodes, and he had got back to me and said that, you know, some countries don't have any kind of swear words per se, like Slovenia and things like that. They just it's just phrases that are more the insult. So one of the Balkan ones, was that the swear was essentially, I hope your balls grow fungus. So rather than have swear words, they just have phrases that are kind of insults, I guess, you know.
That's fabulous.
It reminded me, because then we had a bit of a back and forth, and it reminded me of my all-time favorite Korean insult, which is, I'm not going to say because I think it's a pretty extreme one in Korea, but it essentially translates to dog baby.
You're a dog baby.
Yeah, And I always, when I found out what it was, I was like, that rules. It's incredible. So yeah, but so that was my occurrence for this week anyway.
When our children are being loud and obnoxious, Mike calls them pig parrots.
I like that a lot.
I know. I don't know where he got it. Probably from his father.
That's a good one.
I know, right? Speaking of work.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful segue.
So good at segues.
Chef's kiss. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I've been practicing. I'm sure you can tell.
I can.
So we're talking about weirdest workplace experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are.
I was like, I don't know. I have so many. A lot of them are really sad, and I didn't want to go. Did you find that as well?
I definitely have some that are pretty sad, and I was like, I'm not going to include those. But at first, I was like, because you had suggested this to me, and then I was like, I don't know if I'm going to have any good ones. And then I started writing, and I was like, oh, I've got lots. Uh-huh. I mean, not all of them directly affected me, but things that I kind of happened that was just like, oh wow, holy shit. I am, of course, not going to mention any of these companies' names.
Neither am I.
I will maybe mention that they're a big company, a small company, whatever, but that's about the height of it,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, do you have anything you want to kick off with this, or any questions to kick us off with?
I guess, what was your first job you ever had?
Okay, so I had it's like I had a paperboy job. I had like a few like supermarket jobs, grocery store jobs here and there. They were nothing major. Like my first my first sort of job when I realized how insane workplaces were was in a sort of like, it's essentially a pawn shop. We don't have pawn shops per se in this country. We have this other sort of version of it. And I worked for them, and it was insane. It was just sheer chaos, that place. Like, I saw relationships break up in there. I saw fights break out in there. I saw I worked in the buy office in that place for a while. And I never wanted to do that. I was happy just working on the floor selling things to people. And I saw how crestfallen people would be when they brought in something that clearly had meaning to them, and were like, how much will you give me for this? And you were like, this tiny sum of money, and it's just I did it for 2 days, and I was like, I can't do this. It's just not in me at all. I'm not that guy at all. I'm not some sort of deal maker. I'm not a sales guy at all. So that was kind of my first full-time-ish sort of job. Apart from that, part-time jobs with certain markets and, as I say, delivering papers and stuff. What about you?
Do you guys have Baskin and Robbins?
We do. Well, yeah, do we? I know what it is. I don't know if we...
So it's like an ice cream store that's pretty famous, and they also have ice cream that they sell in grocery stores. There's a scene in the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie where Paul, what's his name?
Rod?
Yeah,
Rod?
is
no, that's an Ant-Man.
Yeah, Paul Rudd. It's Paul Rudd.
Yeah,
and he's
Paul Rudd.
He's at Walmart, and he's getting ice cream, and he gets Baskin Robbins, and he's like, jump mocha, and I was like, jump mocha, I'm in fun. I know all the ice cream, 31 flavors, I know all the flavors. I'm not going to list them all here for you now, but my first job, I think I started at 14. You're not legally allowed to work until you're 15 in the United States, but your parents can sign a form that says that you're allowed. And so I had a really beefy right arm because I was pulling,
That's a good workout.
It is a good workout for one arm. And try ice cream scooping with your other non-dominant hand. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
But I was training somebody, another high schooler, and his job was to take out the trash and make sure that the door to the ice cream freezer was locked and closed up for the night. And I didn't double check his work. So the next morning I get a call from my boss and she's like, the fridge door is open and we just lost $20,000 worth of ice cream and it's melted all over the store.
Oh my word.
So bad.
What? That was there, what happened? Was there consequences? Were there like, I mean,
I didn't get fired.
Okay.
And like Baskin Robbins is a big enough company that like no one knows which location I'm talking about, unless you do know which location I'm talking about. But yeah, she was very kind about it, and I'm pretty sure. Well, I'm not. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they just like closed the freezer door and like refroze what they could and probably served it.
Probably.
So
I mean, like most companies would do that. They would say they would do that, but they're going to do that.
Yep. So that happened.
Wow, I love it. That's a good one. That's so good. Like I have some of the stuff would happen with me was, and it was always kind of a point of pride that I'm like a hard worker. So whenever I kind of got accused of being like a slacker or whatever, I would always like work my ass off and like, but it was like always assholes who did that to you, like poor managers who like really got into you for that, and I always took it as a point of pride for getting like feedback from these like pricks, and I don't know why. I don't know why I cared. Now I'm like whatever, but they're always so funny how much these things kind of drive you, especially when you're younger.
It's true. Yeah, it was definitely like I think you and I have similar work ethics, and we want the head pats and we want not accolades, but just like a good job feels so good to hear.
Very much
like,
so.
Like nice work. You're like, yes, you did the thing. And
that's good work.
And it's like, I don't say it to myself, but if someone else says it, then I'm like, oh, ooh, hey.
Shower me with praise, please.
Put those rays of sunshine on me.
And they're like, good job. And you're like, oh, thanks, Dad. I mean, sir. Mr. Manager, I gotta go.
Cry in the bathroom stall.
Yeah, exactly. I called him Dad. What was I thinking? And so on and so forth.
Yeah. What you got?
Okay, so I do you have any specific like jobs that were like sheer horror shows from beginning to end that you can kind of talk about in a vague way, and some of the experiences that were contained within that?
I can tell you about my. I have a lot of those actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll tell you. I was part of a corporate takeover, like not me taking over a corporation, but like
you were involved with it.
I was working for the company. I just moved back to Oregon in like 2000 and something, and it was one of those companies that would call like technology firms and be like, we are here trying to do research, and like, can you give us what's it like being a tech analyst, and how many people are working in your company, and like basically like you cold call people high up in different technology firms. Maybe you got some of these calls, I don't know, but so my second week of work there, they called us all into the corporate boardroom, and they were like, it feels like something out of a movie. They were like, okay, we've been sold to another company, and so we're doing like a hiring freeze, and like don't quit, but we're gonna start some layoffs. And then they called me into the room because they just hired me 2 weeks ago as a temp, and they were like, we can't bring you on as a full-time employee, but we want to give you a $2 increase to keep you. And I was like, okay. And then I got another job offer like the next day, and I was like, I'm going to give you my notice and like go to this other job and work at a nonprofit. And I literally like never went back to a corporation ever again.
That's wild.
Because it was just and I know that stuff happens all the time, but it's just not my scene. It's not my scene.
I know, me neither. Like I can't. Yeah, it just feels, I don't know. it's a level of bullshit. Like, I suppose, you know, how business deals just feel like sociopathic in a way that I find it hard to, like, quantify or get my head around. It's just nothing I want any part of. It just feels like vicious and brutal in a way that, like, you know, yeah, no thanks, not for me.
Yeah. So what about you?
So there was a company I worked for, and it was like a software startup type thing, and I had been doing a job. This was when I came back from, like, my time in Taiwan and Korea and stuff. I immediately came back and had like a sort of short-term contract-based thing that went on for a couple of years. Was amazing. I loved it. It was so nice. And it was coming to an end. I needed something. I was struggling to find anything else at all. So I came across to say this software startup. The software was running for a while, and they needed, like, help desk guys to kind of, like, troubleshoot things, do a wee bit of coding, which I kind of had all those skills. But I went in and I was interviewed, and one of the guys who was interviewing us was the owner, the creator of the piece of software, and also the guy that ran the show. He was connected to another business, but that sort of area was his. And straight away I was like, I don't want to work with this guy. He's awful. He's a prick. He just doesn't see. I don't like his energy. I don't like how he talks to me. I don't like how he talked to the other person interviewing with him in the room. I like none of this at all. But, like, I was kind of desperate. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll take the job, you know, as I say, just so I could immediately go from one thing to the other and not, like, have a break in earnings. The pay was terrible as well. It was way worse than what I was getting in the last place, but I just needed something. So I went in, and immediately it's revealed, like, how awful both he treats his staff, the nature of the staff that he had working for him. So the vast majority of the help desk team that I was working with were students on their year out. So basically, once you do your year out, it's quite tough for them to, like, walk away from that because it makes them look bad. So
what's a year out? Like, you take a year off school?
Not even a year out, sorry, is a bad way to describe it, but maybe a year of, like, work experience that's built into your university degree. And often for, like, you know, software type of things, or, like, computer engineering roles, they'll do this for a lot of those courses. So everybody else was on their year out and was stuck there because they couldn't really walk away from it and were miserable. And I was like, oh fuck. And, like, then I, you know, very quickly in the first few weeks had learned that the turnover for this place was wild, like, insanely high. A lot of people, like, literally were so miserable they they would and this happened twice. Guys went for lunch and just never came back. Because they're just like, this is just not worth it for me. It's miserable. The manager would scream at people. He would lose his temper in wild ways, just really lose his shit, and, like, have so many problems with here and there and whatever. I only lasted, like, about 6 months total in this place, and I was so happy to leave it. But about halfway through, he, like, brought me into his office and was like, look, Andy, I want to promote you to manager of the, like, help desk team. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, I don't want it. I'm like, I have no interest in being a manager in this company. And he's like, oh, we're going to offer you an extra £1,000 a year. So £1,000 a year is what, $1,500 over the course of a year, which is fucking peanuts, right?
That's
I know
nothing.
It's for a managerial
like
role.
Not even $100 or whatever pounds per month.
Yeah, like 120 a month. It's nothing, peanuts. And he and I was like, I really don't want it. I really don't. Thank you. I'm good. I was like, I'll think about it, but I think my answer is going to be no. And, like, I was essentially strong armed into taking this role. Then, the next day, he came in and he said to me, right, the first thing I want you to do is, here's a box. I want you to take everybody's phone off them. They're not allowed to touch their phone all day long. And I'm like, I'm pretty certain that's illegal. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be the one who's enforcing this, because I think I know, insane. And so
take their cell phones away.
Yeah.
Like, what if they have kids, or, like, their kids get sick and they need to call their mom to pick them up? It's
crazy. And so so it was just, and it was a shame, because there were lovely guys, all the ones that were working there, but he very much pitted the, like, coders against the kind of help desk team. It was just a grim working environment. I only lasted there about 6 months, I then sort of started interviewing around a couple of years later, and I mentioned I worked for that place, and I said that guy's kind of a prick, and they said to me, "Oh, did you know he died?" And I'm like, "Oh." I know you're maybe supposed to, under those circumstances, go, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear." I was just like, "Oh, okay." And it was just awful of me, but you know, it is what it is. And your reaction's your reaction, you can't help it. And I then looked up his, I just out of curiosity because I wanted to know what happened, because he wasn't like much older than me, and he was sadly hit by a car. But I looked it up, and there was a what's the word, obituary for him. And you know the way you read those obituaries and you're just like, shit. So the only nice thing about him in the obituary was his family was well regarded in the town. That was it. And I was like, holy shit, everybody thought he was a prick.
Do you think like one of his employees hit him with their car?
It's a distinct possibility, you know. Like, I mean, but he was just he was a grim human being. I'm sad he got hit by a car, but at the same time, you know, he was also
laughing because this is just insane,
ludicrous. I mean, I you know, I don't wish that on anyone, but like at the same time, he was an awful human being who made lots of other people feel awful. So you know, it's not, you know, I'm not going to be too sad about it. So yeah, that was a roller coaster of a 6 months, and a job that I am very happy to never think about or go back to in any way, shape, or form. Laugh about it now, but it wasn't any fun at the time.
What's That's insane. Okay, what's either have you been fired, or like what's the worst thing you've ever done at a job?
Ooh. Okay, so I guess I have been only been fired that thing recently. I came in and I was just told I didn't have a job anymore. I don't think I've ever been fired apart from that. I don't know if I can really say the worst thing I've done in a job. I have, like, when I was younger, I would sometimes take things home that I shouldn't maybe take home, you know. I mean, like, certainly office supplies and things like that, and like certain jobs. But,
everybody does that.
I will not get too specific, but yeah, there was some wild stuff back in the day. But yeah, just grabbing office stuff that I perhaps shouldn't have been here and there. Let's leave it at that.
Okay, you're like a whole computer.
Yeah. No, they kept too tight track of those. I couldn't get out of that.
Okay, so mine. I was working at a college that I went to. And part of the job was I got room and board for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And we were running like the dormitories, like a hotel kind of. So you would get like, you know, different camps would come in or conferences would come in and use the university as like a conference center kind of, but you're staying in a dorm room. I had 2 jobs like that actually. So I was a student in this job. I was a teenager, so don't like hate on me too bad, but I got caught by campus security with weed on me.
Ooh, shit, how did that go?
Terribly. I remember like they made me, I had this little pipe and like a little bit of weed, and they made me throw my pipe in the dumpster or the lorry, and nice. And you know, I'm like high, and I'm trying to like make small chit chat with the, you know, campus safety officer. Then the police showed up, and I was like, oh my God, like, oh, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Like, because it was not legal then, and my parents didn't know I, you know, smoked weed or whatever. And like, I remember just being like, oh no. And the campus safety folks were like, we got this under control. You can leave. So like, it wasn't on my state record, but, I didn't know that they sent all like incident reports to all of the directors in each department across the campus, including my boss.
Ooh, okay.
So like the weekend went by, I was at work like a normal human being. I did my job, everything was fine. And then like Friday afternoon, he called me in his office and he was like, I got this report this is you, and I'm gonna have to let you go. And I was like, shit. So I lost my housing. Like, I'm gonna have
Oh,
to call my parents and be
fuck.
like, I got fired. I have to go home. I don't have a job. My parents are gonna literally like kill me, probably like pull me out of college. Like, all these things are running through my head.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so it was like me and a team of like probably other like 14 other college students like running this program. Where we would like check people in and out, like manage keys and,
Yep.
uh, mail. Like there was like some people would, there was like a music festival that went on for 3 months. And so like the musicians would have like mail and we would manage their mail and all that stuff. I'm just like getting into the nitty gritty. Anyways, so what ended up happening was all 14 of my coworkers, I guess I was doing a good job or they liked me or something. They all went into my boss's office and told them that they were all going to quit if they fired
Oh,
me.
nice.
I know,
Awesome.
right?
That's great.
And so I got called into like the head of housing's office, and he was like, basically, like, we're not hiring you back because everyone else said that they were going to quit, but we're giving you your job back to give you a second chance. And I was like, okay. And like, they ended up hiring me as a staff person after that. Like, I did a really good job.
Nice.
Um, but the rest of the summer, like all my coworkers, like, you get mail from all sorts of like companies that just send them. So I would get a stack of High Times magazines in my mailbox every summer, like every month. There were like two Beth Martin, like ha ha ha.
Nice, I love it.
I know. So yeah. So that was my I got fired story.
That's good. Yeah, like I'm like certainly in appearances, like I what's the word I'm looking for? I give goody little two shoes, right?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And most people think I am, and then they're always kind of shocked at various things. So I think that I've always kind of like really kind of got lucky with so much of that, and I mean I really have had such apathy for jobs, but then like I've also over the years realized how like much apathy the companies, especially larger companies, have for me as well. Do you know what I mean? I am like a number that fulfills a certain thing. Um, the I had so we have in Ireland, both in the north and the south, a lot of American companies set up their European headquarters here because
Mm-hmm.
we're English speaking. It's inexpensive, certainly compared to England or any of the mainlands or the UK. So it's kind of a good sort of stop off point. So I work for a company, a big American company, that involved us, taking trips out to the US occasionally. But like it was, and I worked in a variety of teams within that job, but it was like one of the teams that I worked on, there was nothing for us to do. There was essentially a new system that was to be put into place. We were set up with the various sort of offices dotted around the US, and we were kind of waiting for them to send us information, and we could do nothing until that happened. And most of the time, you were just sending emails back and forth, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, we don't have it yet," and you're like, "Okay." Um, so so I was just like, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm bored out of my mind. I'm just sitting here. So like I took to reading like PDFs. I found like PDFs of books I wanted to read. I remember reading Dracula and work on a PDF. I this was at a time when things were like changing over, so from physical media to like digital stuff. I burnt my entire CD collection to digital media in work. I took in 10 CDs at a time and I would burn them. Um, I didn't like this. In another job, I ended up playing through an entire game on my iPad just in the time that I had, because it's in this wee corner cubicle and there was just nothing to do in that place as well. But we, as part of that company, this was just back then, back in the boom times whenever companies just didn't give a shit, and we were sent over to America a handful of times to do training in theory, which is the idea of it. But there was no plan for us to go out there, like for things for us to do. It was just kind of like, yeah, we'll just send them to America, I guess, for a few days. Sometimes we sent out a couple of different occasions. Once there was a bit more of a plan in place, but once we were there for 3 months, and it was like, why? What is the point of this? I mean, we had fun. it was nice being out there, and it was exciting for us because it was there with a group of guys. And it was some of the guys I had met at the weekend there, actually, and it was just a nice bonding experience for us. And we, like, you know, had like pizza parties, and like we would get like big, you know, platters of like Popeye's chicken and things like that, and watch WrestleMania. Like, I think it was like me and one of the guy were wrestling fans, but we made like 8 others watch wrestling with us one night. But it was just such, like, it was just, I couldn't believe how in that, and because they were always, they were keen to fill seats, or they needed people in that job. There was a guy while I was in that company in the Belfast office who was caught illegally downloading movies, burning them to disc, and selling them within the company. They caught him, and they gave him a verbal warning, and he was allowed to go about his job.
Whoa.
So funny. So yeah.
I have a really bad one. This isn't me. Mm-hmm. I worked at a college that I'm not going to name. Mm-hmm. And they were understaffed. So I would be getting, like, I have a lot of stories about this place. I would get calls that should go to, like, a community safety department or a public affairs department or someone not in an events department, right? Mm-hmm. But we had a workshop there for a week that was made. It's like adults go to a college campus for a week and go insane. They really? They think that they're back in college. They're, you know, if there's an open bar, they're in a dorm room. They're throwing chairs off the balcony. Like, they're getting in fights. I'm just like, what are you guys doing, right? But we actually had one of our community safety officers got caught with his pants down, escorting a drunk woman back to her room.
Yikes.
And he was a friend of mine. Literally caught with his pants down.
Wow. Yeah.
And then the college got sued for like $8 million a few years later by the husband and the wife.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
It's, you know...
and I had to, like, I was involved. I had to, like, give my testimony to, like, the attorneys. And, like, because I worked with them, I got the call at 2 a.m. about what had happened. You know, I was coordinating with the community safety and the president's office. And it was just, like, it was a whole big thing. It made the newspaper. It was, like... bad.
That's wild. That's, well, what a thing to be involved in as well. That's not, well, not, you know, directly involved, but still, like, you know, the kind of, so, like, you talking about that, so, like, the, a couple of things, so, like, I guess, in jobs that I've had, the hardest thing to do ever in any of those jobs, in terms of the sort of social point of view, is to deal with sales reps. Sales reps are a nightmare. I've met some that are cool, but by and large they are extremely difficult to deal with, in my opinion. And we had one tell one of my colleagues, basically, he said to him, "Do you know, you wouldn't have a job without me." The ego on these guys. Anyway, and I would believe, that absolutely sounds like someone would come out of a sales rep's mouth, you know, they think the world, like, orbits around them. But I knew somebody in the HR department who worked for that company, again, a massive company, and they would often fly out. So there was a sales kickoff event. I think most companies have sales kickoff events at the start of the year when it's start of sales season, and they get all the reps together.
And pump them up.
Yeah.
You're the best.
Oh, you're the best. You can do all the
sales.
Meet
your quota.
Yeah, exactly. And they bring in a load of HR reps, you know, as essentially as police. Because as you can imagine, whenever a load of sales reps are together, it's like a bacchanal. It's like, you know, drink, drugs, you know, it's sex, you know, like affairs, all sorts of crazy shit going on. But the HR reps are like, there is an absolute massive limit in what we can do. We can do very, very little here, you know. We just have to, like, try our best and, like, handle any of the serious stuff, you know. But I think, like, even within that, the most recent one, this is a while back now, but talking to her about that, and she was just like, yeah, it was, I think there was at least 2 people fired. There was at least 2 people who were, like, caught cheating with they're with other people on their partners. I think the partners were there as well. I don't know. It was crazy. But yeah, sales reps are tough work, in my opinion. Sorry if there's any sales reps out there. If you're a lovely sales rep, I take it all back. Well. I have a good one just because like okay. Working like teaching English abroad has been like challenging, and I've really found it tough working in those environments here and there. There's some great things about it, there's some terrible things about it, and like I've worked for some really bad managers in there, but I've worked for some nice ones too. But one of my favorite all-time interactions, and it was in a place I didn't really like working with very much, and it's something that is seared into my brain and will be forever. And it's definitely weird, but it is one of my favorite conversations of all time. I may have even told you this conversation before. So I worked with a kind of in that school I did a number of different grades, but I also had like a kindergarten style class, and within that class there was kids from I think 4 to about 6. So a pretty wide scope of ages and like abilities, learning abilities and stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. So it was hard to do anything solid with them. But like 2 of these kids in particular, and one of them was 4 and one of them was 6, they were brothers. And they would have to like, their dads were working late, so they would have to stay in school, like sitting in class, like reading a book. Can you imagine like a 4 to 6-year-old, here's a book to read? They were so bored. And I would like sometimes sit in that class with them and just mark my books, because I would have to do like, reports and stuff at the end of each day. And one of the older ones, he turns around to me and goes, "Teacher, do you like this one on guitar?" And he goes, "Wow!" And he just made this guitar noise, and the wee guy he pretended to play this wee guitar. I was like, "Yeah, I like that one on guitar." And he goes, "What about this one?" And he just started making different guitar noises, and we were just chuckling and having such a lovely time. And it will always stay with me, because it was just like they were both, him and his brother were both laughing so much. It was very lovely. And I did like all those ones on guitar. I liked all those guitar sounds. So it was
on his tiny air guitar.
It checked out. It was great. I also just like the question, "Teacher, do you like this one on guitar?" I was like, "Yeah, Dave."
I can imagine I just can imagine like what a wonderful teacher you are.
Oh, thank you. I had a good relationship with a lot of them, but like, it's a tough job. I have to say. Yeah. I forgot. I was making a list of jobs that I've done, and I forgot that I was a teacher's assistant for 6 years. Remember, you think you told me about that?
Yeah. And I have stories there, but let's see. I did some film shoots.
Oh.
So I'm gonna tell you who I met.
Oh, drop those names.
I'm gonna drop them. Sean Penn, Morgan Freeman, the director of the original Star Wars movies.
With George Lucas himself?
Oh no, it's not Star Wars. Superman. Sorry.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
I know. I don't remember his name.
I can remember
Charles
his
name. something.
Yeah.
So, Selma Blair, who's in Hellboy.
Yep.
Sorry to Burrito. She does eat.
Nice. That's good.
It's like a big old burrito. I know, right?
That's good.
Totally. And then I gave Timothy Hutton my cold.
Ooh, nice. Oh, that's not cool.
I know. He's an Oscar winner. And like, he was filming a show at this college that I'm not going to name. And I was the site rep. So I had like, access to Craft Truck. And that's where they like make you all the food. And I was on channel. I give you like a walkie-talkie. And, you're running around like making sure that they're not messing things up too badly. And he was the star of this television show that he was working on. And I remember like I was walking from where they were filming back to my office, and there was someone like walking next to me, and I look over and it's Timothy Hutton. And I could tell that he was like giving me the eye of like, "You must know me." And I was like, "Oh." And I just like blown this huge sneeze in my hands.
Oh, no.
And he was like, I was like, "Oh, are you Timothy Hutton?" And he's like, "Yes, I am." And he reached his hand out to me to grab it. And I was like, okay, here you go. Like, grabbed his hand back and like I was like, I'm a big fan. You know, I remember you in Ordinary People, and you know, it was such a great performance, and everything you can do is so great. And he was like, thanks so much. You know, obviously. And then and then our hands separated, but I knew that he was going to have like a really horrible week, and it was all because of me.
I had to look him up there because I was like, I noticed, and I recognize his face immediately, and I was like, yep, I know that dude.
Yep.
I think he won an Oscar. And you feel free not to answer this, but did any of those people suck, or was all those interactions nice for the most part?
They were all nice.
Okay.
Yeah, like I met Emil, like I worked on Into the Wild, so like Emil Hirsch,
nice. Awesome.
Marcia Gay Harden, like they were all lovely, kind, just all around like lovely people. And Morgan Freeman's stand-in looks exactly like him, and they're like total BFFs. They like hang out in life in general.
That's awesome.
So it's just like weird, like, because what a stand-in is, like, if they're trying, like, they got to get the lighting set up right, and the sound, and so someone has to stand there that's the same height, and that has the same look, and so every actor has a stand-in that literally stands there while they're getting everything set up, and then once that's done, then the actual actor comes in and like stands where their stand-in was standing, and they do their lines.
What actors do I look like? I wanna get this job.
Yeah. Where you stand there? I know. There you go. We got it. There it is. You can travel.
That's my job. Yeah.
You get your own like trailer.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Snack truck.
All right. Perfect. I need to stay as trim as that actor, so not too many snacks, but an occasional snack if I've been a good boy.
Yeah. They make really good breakfast burritos.
See, that sounds so good.
I think I must want a burrito right now because that's like all I'm talking about.
I mean, it's hard to beat.
It's true.
I'm trying to think. I'm just looking through my stuff here. I think that's most of the stuff I wanted to get into. Do you have anything else that you want to cover?
I did work at a college in Texas for a year.
Uh-huh.
And we had a presidential candidate coming to give a speech. It was John Kerry, I think. And so I got to see like security happening for at that point, like he was he was one of the two presidential candidates, I think. Whatever year that was.
Yeah.
Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I remember him being one, yeah.
Yeah, so like Secret Service, like they had bomb dogs going around like the day before and that day, like all over campus, making sure that there were no bombs planted, and like snipers were out, and like there were they would cordon off areas where like you would like, this area is clear, no one is allowed in this space now. And like it was definitely like a big deal, and it was just interesting to see that happen.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, I'm always kind of curious. I mean, we've had what our equivalent of that, which is we've had royalty visit,
right?
And there's always a big security thing for that. Like, there'll be helicopters flying everywhere and stuff, and it is uncommon here.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like, you always know some shits went down where you see a helicopter overhead in this country, because it's ordinarily like the police helicopter, like just searching for some bad ones.
And ne'er-do-well.
Some ne'er-do-well, exactly. So yeah, it's always interesting to see that. I mean, we occasionally get it because, the castle's here and stuff, and so there's a bit of connection. I think I've even sent you maybe some of the... I'm not gonna get into this right now, but there are murals at the end of walls and like houses in this country. I think I've sent you pictures of them before, perhaps.
I think you did. Did you?
I think so. I don't know. I will send them to you, but like recently, so like a lot of them were like politically charged, to say the least. So they would maybe have like a guy with like an AK-47 and a balaclava on, pretty crazy shit. But recently they've kind of had rather than them being painted on the new ones, they're like these sort of metal sheets with like images on them. So it's but they've got ones of like the Queen and Prince William, and then they have, I have
not seen these.
I'll take pictures the next time I'm out.
Okay. Or I'll see them myself.
I can't remember what the Queen's the Queen who has passed her husband was called. Oh dear.
Philip.
Philip, thank you.
Welcome.
Oh dear. I mean, like, I hope nobody's going to put me on blast for not knowing his name, but anyway. So they've got those two in one the end of one set of houses, and they've got Kate and William on the other set of houses. It's a very kind of regal, I guess. So yeah, this country, they love to give praise to those royals.
Here it's rappers.
Yeah. Is that the closest thing you think you have to royalty in the US is rappers?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, more fitting, I kind of respect their game and flow more than the royal family,
Yeah, they're also born into it.
That's true.
But they have a skill, I guess.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. Yes, they do have a skill. Exactly.
So,
So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else, or were you good?
I think I'm good. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I have another one, but it's like sad, so I don't think I don't really want to go there.
And we're ending on a goodish place, so
Yeah.
So we'll just move on now. Okay, I like it.
Andy doesn't know the name of the Queen's husband.
Yeah, we'll end it on Andy doesn't know the name of the Queen's husband. A damn fool.
But I do.
And I'll probably get lashed, Beth, for this.
Point
You understand?
Beth.
I'll get. You don't know his name.
Now you're just avoiding joy. I can tell.
I am. All right. Let's get to it. Fine. So, Beth, what's been bringing you joy this week?
Can you go first?
Yeah.
Normally I write it down, but I need to think about it.
Okay. So I guess what's been bringing me joy over the past week was, well, two things. A, I started watching The Bear season 2 after you talked about it, and in terms of the grand scheme of things, straight for the most part, I'd say it's like a 90-10 split, as in, mostly attracted to women, but occasionally I'll see a guy and I'll be like, whoa, whew, and I'll need to like undo my zip a little bit.
White?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He's a complete dreamboat. His hair is incredible. I'm happy with my hair, I must say, but like his hair is sensational. So for that point of view alone, it's a great show. The writing's incredible, the acting's incredible, but Jeremy Allen White, a smoke show, and worth it for that sort of alone.
Have you seen Shameless?
I had the UK one. I've seen a fair chunk of it. I haven't seen much of the US one, unfortunately.
I haven't seen it at all, but now
is he in it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where he got his start.
He got a start. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I read something the other day where they were like, when are you gonna like join the MCU? And he was like, why is that the pinnacle of some of the actors' like life and success? Like that, I would rather be in a show that's like actual like acting and not behind or in front of a green screen or whatever.
Because he was in Iron Claw, which I saw a few weeks back, and he was pretty good.
How is that?
It's good. I knew that story going in.
Okay, I don't.
I won't talk about it too much, but it is pretty grim.
Okay.
And I found it a bit tough, but it was pretty cool, and they were all amazing in it, and like the wrestling and stuff looked great. Worth a watch, I would say, but I wasn't quite as enamored with it as I thought it was going to be. The other thing, I guess, was even though I was moaning about my hangover at the start of the episode, it was lovely going out for a few drinks with some old friends. It's always good, I think, to reconnect with people. I mean, like, I'm pretty good at keeping those connections going anyway, but it's always a joy, kind of, even after long periods of time, meeting somebody and just picking up, like, no time has passed whatsoever. So that really has been bringing me joy over the weekend.
Those are great friendships. Those are my favorite friendships, where you're just like pick it right back up, and you got all your inside jokes that last forever.
I think I'm very lucky to have a lot of people like that as well. Do you know what I mean? And it just really makes me very happy.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we had it didn't end up. I told you we were supposed to have like a big storm here.
Oh yeah.
It rained hard. Like we got some rain.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there was a tornado warning, like 20 miles, in some direction from us. We're in the mountains, so like we don't get tornadoes here, but they actually, like, in San Diego had a tornado warning, which is very, very rare.
Wow.
And so behind our house, when it rains, we've got a creek that forms.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was down, like the kids were like, can we go play in the creek? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we went down there the other day, day before yesterday, and just like, they got so dirty. Charlie's like, look at the water, it flows into my boots. Like, I was like, genius. Harper's like, me too. But we were just like digging around and like, you know, trying to find fish and bugs and pulling the weeds that like can hurt them out, and like clearing space and just like making it our little creek bed again, and playing Iron Man. And it was just, it reminded me of my childhood.
That's awesome.
And like playing in the creeks and like tadpole bogs. And it was just nice to like harken back to my own childhood with my kids, I guess.
Yeah, I like that. That's so lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I know there's something about like just existing in that sort of, you know, kid space for a while as well. I think it's really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great one. Yeah, I love it.
And it doesn't happen as often as like I want it to, or like whatever, you know, it's like when you're parent, you have to parent, but just to be able to like drop down and be like, nope, we're all kids right now.
But like, I suppose you can't engineer these things to an extent, but do you not feel that those things kind of happen organically anyway? So I think it's lovely that, you were able to have one recently. Yeah.
So it rained. We have a creek for a few weeks.
Enjoy that creek while it lasts.
I know, right?
That's great. Yeah. Okie dokie. So I think that is everything for this week, folks. So we would like to remind you, as always, to stay Bendy. An all-timer that time, a classic. One for the books. All right, bye,
say
folks.
That every week.
You.
Bye.
Yeah,
bye,
we do. I do. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Bendy, a Beth and Andy podcast. If you haven't already, please follow and subscribe to Bendy on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, and YouTube. You can access all audio recordings as well as video recordings of each episode at bendypodcast.com, along with new t-shirts just for you. Next week, we talk about thinking hard, where we dive into big brain topics like free will, nature versus nurture, and if we want to know when we're going to die. As always, digression leads us to talking about comic books, being hungover, and Darth Vader. Thanks again for listening, and you always have a friend with Bendy.